with Jessica Tomasoni.
Thank you for joining us. Today, an interview with Peter Altobelli, Vice President Yardi Systems, Property and Asset Management Software, to talk about marketing properties and technology solutions. Tony Irwin, President and CEO, FERPO, drops by with a special announcement I know you're all going to be excited to hear. Lastly, a nano survey on homelessness and affordable housing with really interesting data for us to process. Let's get started.
Managing multi-residential resident deliveries. Snaily, Canada's parcel locker company.
Coming out.
With over 14,000 products in stock every day, we are your maintenance supply superstore. Go to hsbuild.com.
With us today, Peter Altobelli, Vice President Yardi Canada Limited, Property and Asset Management Software. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you, Jessica. I'm glad to be back.
So first off, welcome back. And last time you were here, we talked technology solutions and how they can help during the pandemic. Today, I'd like to get a little bit more specific and talk marketing properties, specifically post-COVID-19. So what trends have you noticed in the industry post-COVID-19?
So it seems that COVID-19 seems to be a game changer for the industry in terms of how we're marketing our properties. You know, if I take just a minor step back, in March, April, everyone was going home. So there was a flight on making sure staff were able to work from home, make sure they had the right, cloud-based solutions in place. They could do their jobs, they could be distant. There was also discussions on how they were going to communicate with tenants and make sure that tenants can communicate well. And lots of technology was put in place to do this. And there's various levels of technology allowed that brought that forward. Fast forward now, we're now into September. 5 months later, thereabouts, what we've seen happen is companies are now re-looking at how they've marketed their properties. You know, that tradition, I've got a website, I've got all my properties on that website, I've got a feed to an ILS for an integrated listing services. That's been the tradition. That tradition is starting to change now. So now what we're seeing companies do is saying it's not good enough just to have a static website. Websites need to be interactive. They need to be able to be engaging with the person on that website. It's not just a brochure that's electronic, which has a lot of pretty pictures, diagrams, lots of nice verbiage. These websites need to be interactive. They need to understand what you're doing on the website and then react to what you're doing on the website. Right? So it sees that you're on a page and it sees what you're looking at. And so all of a sudden, what we call nudge marketing occurs, where a screen would come up and prompt you to do something or ask you a question, call you to action. So it actions that person to do something. So more integrated websites in the sense of more intelligent websites. A lot on tours are happening where you get a lot more richer videos, for video touring is occurring, because you're not necessarily always able to show the unit, but you want to be able to show the unit, so you do it electronically.
I see. Right?
And so it's a self-guided tour on the web, right? Okay. And with a leasing agent understanding where they are, leasing agent would know, did they take the tour, how long they spent on that tour, did they see the whole video, did they cut it short? So the ability for us to understand what you're doing on the website and your staff to know what worked and what didn't work on the website. So when you're engaging that resident or that potential resident, you know how to engage. So it's no longer passive marketing, it's really interactive marketing and more intelligent applications and more intelligent websites.
Oh, that's very specific.
Very specific now, and we're seeing that's going to be the trend. And as you see vacancy rates rise, more and more that's going to be needed, because it's not just the apartments, but it's all the individual condos now that are coming on the market, right? Single family homes that are coming on the market. So your competitor is not just the high-rise apartment beside you, it's everyone else that you don't know. And how are you going to stand out, right? And what makes your website stand out and allow me, a potential applicant, to stay on your website versus getting off and going on somebody else's? Right? That's what we're seeing is the trends.
Wow, very interesting. So currently, what are the different ways people are marketing their properties? Also, we hear a lot of talk of ILS. Is there more to marketing your properties?
Yeah, again, it's that age-old thing in Canada. You had your website, you integrated with some ILSs, and that was the way you marketed. Post-COVID, it's not. As I just talked about, more intelligent websites with what we call reputation management and nudge marketing. But we're also getting into now SEO and SEM, so search engine optimizations and search engine marketing capabilities with inside your site. So let's talk about an ILS. An ILS says, I have my listings, and I move those listings out to an ILS along with all my other competitors. So if I'm searching on the web and I'm looking for a 1-bedroom in Toronto or a 2-bedroom in Vancouver or a studio in Edmonton, those ILSs pop up, and as the person doing the searching, I click on it and I see your properties and everybody else's, all your competitors. That's been tradition in Canada. And that works. It gets a lot of hands and eyes on your properties and everybody else's. And that's a paid service. So that's part of your marketing budget, right? You're paying these ILSs to advertise your listings on their site. And then when a lead comes in, it's typically fill out a single form, and that's emailed to somebody in your leasing department that would follow up with an applicant. Very traditional. That tradition is changing. Now we're bringing in integrated applicant portals, whereas if I'm being called to action on my website, it's very interactive. I've got good videos, I've got good touring, I've got that richness in the website with a lot of call to actions within that website, narrowing down exactly what I'm looking for. When I apply, that leasing agent knows what I've done, knows what I've looked at, and now that integrated application comes right into my system, right into my CRM, right into my back-end accounting solution. So now when I'm dealing with that application, it's not just an email of a name and address in which I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. It's I already know all kinds of stuff about you. Right. That's where the trend is. An ILS is still needed, but in a much less, it's not the focus anymore. It's much less than what it used to be. Right. And the reason for that is it needs to be part of the solution, not the only solution. Proper SEM and SEO allows you to have organic searching through search engine optimization that says when I'm looking for a 1-bedroom in Toronto, my website comes to the top page, and it's the first page. And I see it within the first couple. And when I'm clicking as an applicant, I'm going to a single company and their properties that meet my search criteria. That's good SEO. It's what we call organic searching. In order to do that, you have to know how Google runs its algorithms. And that requires someone who's pretty technical in understanding those algorithms. And if you have a staff person who's like this, and some large companies do, they can set that up for you. You need the tool set to allow you to do it, and then they can go ahead and do it themselves. Most companies don't have that person, right? They can acquire that through external services. So those external services come in and really look at how you want to market your property, how you want the different ways in which people search, will provide good SEO, and then complemented with SEM, which is search engine marketing or pay-per-click, which is if you've ever used Google, you'll see a lot of times on the right-hand side of a screen, all those different ads come up. Right. That's pay-per-click, that's good SEM. So if I'm looking at a 1-bedroom in Toronto, and I might come up with a variety of other properties, a variety of my competitors, but if that occurs, put an ad out there. And what Google allows you to do is put a budget around it and say, I'm going to fix a budget and I'm going to spend that money with Google with the proper services around that, so I'm always coming organically to the top, and if I don't, because there's a competition to the top, I've got my ad that comes up. That is where the trend is. That's where people are going, because I don't want to be with all my competitors. I want to be the one that you select as an applicant. And then once you're in my website, you might look at the property you're looking at, but then you could select other properties that I have. And on an ILS, you could do the same thing, but you might be going to the competitors. An ILS needs to be part of the solution, not the total solution. Good SEO and SEM become more important with integrations to an ILS as well. And that's what we're seeing the trends. And that's different than what we saw post-COVID. Right? And that's where we see the Canadian market starting to go and what our clients are asking us for.
Very interesting. So going into screening, what does screening have to do with the marketing properties? So
we all know it's great to get an applicant, and it's good to have that integration. The more you know through an integrated applicant portal as opposed to just an email coming to someone, the information I need in that application is also the information I would need to do the screening. What is nice to know though is if I'm spending money on marketing, pay-per-click, search engine optimization, an ILS, and these leads are coming in, you're running screening on all these people who are applying. Some leads and some people will be better suited for certain properties. That's what the screening tool does. It'll grade you, it gives you a credit report, it gives you a screening score, and it says, this is your score, and what are you looking at in terms of a score, what score do I need to have in terms of fulfilling that unit or occupying that unit, which is what screening does. And we've been doing it in the industry for decades. How it relates to marketing is when you can compare that result of a screen to how you achieved the lead. So if I spent money on an ILS and I'm getting leads, but those leads are always poor scores and poor credit, why am I spending money with that ILS if I'm not generating the right leads? No different than if I'm spending money on my website, what are the quality of the leads? Okay, so we want to make sure that we could look at the spend and then measure that spend based on the quality of leads. And it's done through the screening tools, an integrated screening tool. So when it comes in, I could be screened, I'm scored, and I know how that lead came into my company.
Right. So it's kind of like a filtering process.
It's a filtering and a measuring process, right? And if you don't measure something, you don't know if you're successful with it, and you don't know whether or not you're spending the money the right way. Typically, you only spend the money, you spend money in marketing. A lot of times what we find is companies are spending marketing money the same way they did all the time, because that's just they know what to do. They just know how to do it one way. This is taking a different approach and changing that model and breaking that model.
So Peter, going back to SEOs and SEMs, please recap for our viewers, what are they and why are they important?
So SEO is search engine optimization, SEM is search engine marketing, and it's just two acronyms that are used in the internet world. It's the effective use of your website. So when I, as an individual, am searching on the web, I'm finding your website. And I don't really want to be on the 7th or 8th or 9th screen. I really want to be on the first screen, maybe the second screen, right? Effective SEM and SEO allows you to achieve that goal. So how do you achieve it and what is it? So there are a series of services out there that you can purchase that allow your web developers to manage your SEO and SEM. SEO and SEM use Google algorithms to determine where you fall on a page and how quickly you move up a page or down a page, okay? Google changes those algorithms. And when they change those algorithms, you have to go in and change your SEO to be able to meet those new algorithms. What you do want is organic growth on the internet. So when I'm looking for a one-bedroom apartment in Toronto, I'm coming to the top. And it's my website. It's not necessarily the ILS, but it's my website. So when the individual clicks on it, it's going into my property, into my company, looking at my results. That's good SEO. That needs to be managed for you. Most companies don't have that level of technology with them. Larger ones do, but the majority don't. So there are services out there that will manage it for you. You couple that with good SEM, search engine marketing, whereas you're now putting out what we call pay-per-click ads. So you know when you're Googling on the right-hand side of that screen, you always see those ads that come up. Those are paid for. Those results are all paid for. But those results just don't show up. They show up targeted. They know exactly what you've done on Google, what you're looking at, the number of searches you've done, what you searched for, and good SEM targets the right pay-per-click ad that shows up to that individual doing the searching.
Right.
That's what you're looking for. So you're really targeting to that individual, and it's your property that they're seeing, your website they're seeing. Good SEO and SEM are required now. And more post-COVID than pre-COVID, we're seeing companies really recognize that in Canada, more so than just standard ILSs in which you and all your competitors are on. This really drives that person to your site, right? And it's that integrated marketing approach that you're looking to have. None of this is that expensive, right? It's all about cost and where am I spending the money. You can set up budgets, a Google spend budget that says I want all this within a particular budget, and control that budget electronically through your website. So those ads are on or off depending if it's within budget or not within your budget.
I see.
Right? So you can really target the funds.
Really target it, so
really
specific.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
wow. Very interesting.
That's why SEO, SEM are becoming much more integrated and much more important today than they ever have been before.
Definitely a trend now, yes.
It is.
Wow. Well, Peter, thank you. That was very informative. I know our audience appreciates you sharing this updated information. It's always changing. We appreciate you taking the time coming in. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Jessica. I look forward to another one of our talks in the future.
What are we going to talk about next time, right?
All kinds of stuff to talk about with real estate and technology. So thank you.
Thanks again. Up next, a special announcement from Tony Irwin.